Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. Happy birthday, Second Life. This is the last show of this season, and fittingly enough, we're going to rebroadcast a live show that happened last night. I'm still recovering from my hangover, self-induced. Well, I guess a hangover is always self-induced. When I celebrated the 13th birthday of Second Life by moderating a panel at the Second Life birthday party while drinking cheap champagne, and we had a fabulous panel. And if you were there, you enjoyed a very lively discussion about things such as what is VR, is SL VR, and why do the new VR kids hate us so much? No, it was actually a little bit more nuanced and all-encompassing than just rambling on about why doesn't anybody respect us. I don't get no respect. We had panelists. We had Kitty Witch, and that's her blog's name, Kitty O'Toole, who had problems with voice, so she didn't actually say anything, but she was there, and I'm linking on the blog to her post about the Oculus Rift debacle. I shall say no more. She says it well on her blog. We had, of course, Diana Renoir, who was one of the organizers and whipcrackers at the SL13th birthday party, making sure that everything is coming in on time and everything looks good. We had Iliastra Ascendant, who is a Microsoft guy, who is a HoloLens proponent, but who is also a longtime Second Life observer and maker of things with deep thoughts. And we also had Chingaling Bling, a.k.a. Jackie Mori in real life, who has been on this show often and who is obviously a living, I'm going to say it, she's a living legend in the virtual reality field, having created a scent collar for virtual reality in the 90s. And we had a special Linden guest, Linden, who has been with Linden Lab for 8 years. And here, let's just roll tape and let's start with introductions. Here's Linden introducing himself, and then a conversation gets hijacked by Jo, because all she wants to know is about finances. All right, fun show. Here we go.
I am Landon, and I work with the operations and the platform engineering teams at Linden. Working on both Second Life and some of our money services and Sansar as well.
By money services, you mean the transaction of monies when you buy things and you receive money and you cash out and stuff like that?
That's it.
And the speed of it?
Say again, Jo?
And the speed of how fast it goes?
I have something to do with that as well, yes.
I'm being subtle here.
That sounds a little passive-aggressive to me, Jo. What can you be a little bit more specific? What are you talking about?
Oh, I was really going for the passive-aggressive sort of, of style of questioning. Well, as someone in Second Life, I'm always wondering when and if it will be possible to make the transactions go a bit faster.
Well, I'm not quite sure which kind of transactions you're referring to, and there are a couple different ways you can cut it, right? So, Linden dollar transactions go what I would consider to be extremely quickly. We have a 30 millisecond budget to complete Linden dollar transactions, and we're actually doing a project right now where we're looking to increase that by, I would say, an order of magnitude, but I think we're actually going to get quicker than that. But beyond that, one of the things that you could be seeing are actually kind of delays in notification rather than delays in the transaction completion. But I know that's from the user perspective is kind of immaterial, right? But if you're having kind of problems about some of that, I'd love to take a look.
I was talking about. I meant the cashing out.
Oh, sure. Well, let me put it this way. I would say that there are few technical reasons for the length of the payout. I think that mostly has to do with us having to, understand what people are doing and what the transactions are for and who the people are, and to make sure that there's no fraud or anything like that. And we're always working to improve that process. I don't want to misspeak, but I think we've shaved about 2 days off of it, and we're constantly working on making that process go more quickly. But it really has to do a lot more with protecting our users and making sure that it's legitimate activity that's going on.
Jo is cutting straight to the chase and hijacking our show, Jo. Last time I checked, Jo, I'm at the top of the billing of this show. For Jesus Christ! No, this is good, and we have so many questions, but I actually figured if we have Landon for a very short time, and I do want to given the reason why we're here, which is the celebration of a user-created universe that is gigantic, that is diverse, that is arguably there's nothing like
virtual reality.
Right, but there is nothing like it out there, and I just thought about today what Second Life really means to me and how it changed my life, and I posted on various social media networks about that. I want to ask Landon because he's working right there at the center of where he needs to sort of get it all smooth and working so that we can be creative, and we have the luxury of sort of complaining about things not getting not being done fast enough. Landon, I want to ask you, what, after 13 years of Second Life being around, I don't know how long you're at the lab, but what does Second Life mean to you? I mean, how has it transformed your life professionally, possibly personally? Can you close the door after you leave at, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. and not think about it? Is it that kind of job, or is it consuming you in a good way, in a bad way?
Well, I wouldn't describe my relationship with Linden Lab and Second Life as consuming me. I think, this is who I am. This is what I want to do, and I'm not quite sure that the door ever closes with 6 p.m. or otherwise. Right? It's kind of thing where I work with the operations team, and mercifully, I'm not having to. They don't need me to jump in and fix things directly that much anymore. But I certainly am part of the escalation path. If something goes wrong, then I'm notified and certainly jump in and help where I can. Right. So it's certainly not a case of where, like I said, the door never closes, even virtually, when you're working with the operations team at Second Life, which is it can be exhilarating, but it can be a burden. But it's not too much.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of responsibility. But I was thinking, because I know a lot of ex-Lindens, and a lot of them have told me, interestingly enough, the same thing. And I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I'm kind of summarizing what they said. Is that the time, especially in the beginning, and but not only during the hype days, it was a highlight in their lives. What they saw, people make, and those ex-Lindens express it differently, but I think the crux of what they were telling me in private conversations is that while they may have a satisfying professional life now, it's nothing compared to kind of the exhilarating day-to-day challenges, including madness, that they experienced at Linden Lab. Is that how you feel?
So I would describe it. It's a really tough question, and it's a big one. And I'm trying to be concise because I think it's an answer that deserves a serious response. I think Second Life is one of the most amazing things that's ever been created by humanity, and I know that sounds hyperbolic, but I mean that in all seriousness. I think it's a place where people can come and express themselves in ways that have never been able to be, were never possible before the existence of Second Life. I think that is awe-inspiring, and I am awed every single day that I come to work and see what people are doing with the product. I don't know if that really answered your question.
It really does. I mean, it really comes across that kind of, and I've seen it, and we met briefly when I was there last time, and I can see the passion. And sometimes when I say this, I know there's a lot of cynicism among residents, and there's sometimes a contentious relationship between the quote unquote rulers and the peasants, but. I can only say from my personal experience that the people who I met are really in this. I mean, the Lindens are really extremely passionate about providing a world that works and that enables that kind of creativity. And I just really don't see people who are sort of, kind of phone it in, if you will, like, oh, okay, I'm going to just fix that code, and I go home and I go like, oh my God, look at these idiots who are in this world. Because sometimes you come across among some residents with that's sort of the perception how Lindens are perceived.
I would say that you couldn't do this job if you weren't passionate about it. It just couldn't work, both in terms of the commitment, the level of commitment that you have to have, but also the demands that are being placed upon you. And that's certainly my story. I've been passionate about virtual worlds and virtual reality for longer than I care to admit. Right? I came to work at Linden Lab because this is what I wanted to do. And I have not regretted it, not one moment since I walked in. I have never worked with a greater bunch of people, and certainly people come and go, but I think the core of who we are remains the same, and I count myself privileged to be able to come and do this.
I know you have to go, Landon. Last question real quick, and I'm also going to go to the audience. Please type your comments. There were some great comments. Marianne just commented earlier, 2002. I don't know if that's a direct quote. Please clarify, Marianne. Second Life will never last. And you put in there 2002. Can you clarify if that's actually a quote that somebody said in 2002? And I also wanted to say,
everybody,
you're listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley, and I'm drinking a little champagne for the occasion is pretty clear. And we have in the audience Chingaling Bling, aka Jackie Mori. And Jackie, please come on stage if you can hear me. Jackie is a living legend in virtual reality, and we're going to have her on for the rest of the hour. An absolute honor to have her come back to Second Life. She has been absent a little bit, I think. She's been working in virtual reality. I don't know. We have to ask her since the 80s. But Landon, last question, real quick. This whole contentious thing about virtual reality it seems to me that VR, and I understand, is defined as a platform by the hardware makers and by Silicon Valley to a large extent to classify certain products that are compatible on that platform. But where are virtual worlds in your? I mean, this. You don't. I know you're not. You just answer this. Not representing the lab. How do you feel about this terminology? Virtual reality. Is Second Life virtual reality, or is it something different? What is virtual reality?
I mean, I don't know that I'm the best person to answer this question, actually.
I know, that's why I'm asking. I like to put people on the spot.
So that's fine. I think of Second Life as a virtual world before I think of it as being virtual reality. I think that's just a personal distinction. I think it's probably a minor one, right? I look at it as Second Life is a place where we've all come together to create this space, and that doesn't preclude it from being virtual reality. But I think of virtual reality as being a kind of an immersive experience, and certainly you can achieve that in Second Life. But it's kind of not its primary. It's not its primary role. The way that I think about it, at least.
Very good. I mean, thank you, Landon. And this is again. I mean, I don't think that there's a simple answer to that. I really just I personally think we have to open the dialogue, and we have to kind of be able to be respectful to what people think and how they perceive things. And we're going to talk about this, Landon. I know you need to go. I don't know if Jackie crashed. Well, thank you, Landon, and a little applause. Do people have the good old applause gesture ready to go? Come on, guys. It's 2016. And I think... and I think Marianne clarified. Let me scroll back here. About the 2002 quote. Pundits have long said that, and assuming that with every change we would see the death of Second Life. Interesting. I don't know who you mean by pundits. Can you be specific? Does the name that you have in mind start with
the
an
sky
H?
is falling.
Right. Including as far back as 2002 with the going of GOM, the loss of the prim tax. So it was more than paraphrased than a direct quote. And that's certainly true. And we talked about this, Joe, on the show, how the sky is constantly falling. The sky was falling when Voice came in, when Mesh came in, and so on and so forth. And here we are 13 years in.
It's always falling.
Isn't this amazing? Yeah, but we're here for 13 years, and I don't know. I'm gonna have to put some more champagne into my glass, but let's introduce folks. Let's start with
thanks all.
Thank you, Landon. Bye-bye. Thank you, and say thanks to all the Lindens who make this world work. Kitty, I don't know if you can hear us or if you can speak. Have we figured out the voice issue? Kitty, can you introduce yourself? And here goes the dot of Kitty. I don't see her dot. I see the dot.
I don't see a dot either.
Okay. And here, and Kitty is gone. All right, so we have.
I think she's relogging.
The incredibly shrinking Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. Diana is here, and Diana is a representative of the organizing team. Welcome, Diana, and please tell us, what is SL13B? Is it a celebration of the community? I'm throwing you a softball. Is it the celebration of the community, or is it a propaganda show of the Lindens?
That was me. No, this is a celebration of the community.
And how do we celebrate it? How do they celebrate it?
We invite the community to come here to exhibit what represents SL to them, whether it's their own community, their art, their scripting, their building skills, and we throw a lot of parties too.
Mm-hmm. And can you give us a sense of scale here, because this is huge? And I was in twice, and I was going with the little pod. I was going around the Sims. Can you give us a sense of scale? How many Sims are we talking about? How many exhibitors have exhibits right now?
192 exhibits.
Jesus.
There Christ. Are 17 regions.
And who organizes this whole thing?
The doctor, Marianne McCann, and myself.
Wait a minute, Marianne McCann. I heard that name before. And the doctor also has a TV show. Is that Doctor Who, or who? What doctor are you talking about?
No, Dr. Gascoigne.
Okay.
He's the ringleader of this mess.
There's a doctor in the house.
What is the nature of these exhibits? I mean, does this run the gamut? Tell us a little bit more about, because that's the sense that I got. I mean, it runs the gamut, and I said this often on the podcast, that what appealed to me from the first day in Second Life really was the chaos and the unfinished nature of it, that you could go from basically chaos and half-baked art exhibit to something incredibly sophisticated. And again, this lies in the eye of the beholder. What is art and what is sort of crap? And I don't mean Crap Mariner, who is in the audience.
Art begins there, where the ability of most people ends.
Oh, well,
there you go.
All right,
that's
philosophy.
a German philosopher for you.
What is that?
There is a German philosopher. I have no idea.
But Diana,
but it's German, so it must be true.
Diana, do you allow everyone in? I mean, if I go like, I'm Draxter de Prey and I can res a prim, I mean, am I going to be represented here? Is there sort of a little kind of I don't know, quality control?
There is quality control. One, just for the factor that we only had 190. I think it was 192.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 190 to 200 exhibits. We had over 400 applicants.
Right. You have to narrow it down because, of course, you have limited space. But how is it narrowed down? I mean, isn't that hard? I mean, on what basis? What are the parameters that it's narrowed down?
It is very hard because, one, you're reading it on paper. You're not seeing it in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So we judge it by commercialism first. Nothing is allowed for sale here.
Uh-huh.
Except your soul.
Our souls.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who would apply saying, well, I want to bring my store here and I want to sell things, well, they go to the side. And then we narrow it down even further that, okay, well, this sounds like it's not exactly the general rating.
So it's got to be general rated. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so no Dragster Strip Club.
Let me see if Kitty can hear us. Kitty, can you hear us? Can you respond? Let me get to the other guests real quick. I'll go back to you, Diana, because I want to know what your favorite exhibit is. Jingling Bling, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
There you go. So here is Jingling Bling. Let's go to Jingling after. Let's you know what? I'm just too drunk on the Kool-Aid of awesomeness of 13 years of this. So happy birthday, Second Life. Can I get a round of applause from the audience? Come on. We also thank you very much. We also have Iliastra Ascendant here. Iliastra, I'll get to you in just a bit, but since we have Kitty working with her voice issues, let's go to Chingaling Bling, aka Jackie Mori. I think it's easier for me to post on the blog your resume before you rattle off your accomplishments in the field of virtual worlds and virtual reality, because then the show is going to be over. Jackie's an incredibly accomplished scientist, artist, researcher in that field. So I want to hit you with the big question right away. What is virtual reality, and is Second Life virtual reality, and what the hell is the difference between a virtual world and virtual reality?
Well, I believe that Second Life is definitely a form of virtual reality. I don't.
Thank you, Jackie. Now I'm going to open another bottle. Yay!
I don't believe you have to always have a head-mounted display on. There are forms of presence that Second Life affords quite well, and the main one is social presence. So even when I worked in virtual reality as what I call spatial presence, the one where you put on a head-mounted display and you're walking through a virtual spatial construct, and that is the presence you're feeling. Second Life operates on the social form of presence, which is another very important form of presence within virtual reality. I think they're all part and parcel of what we should be calling virtual reality, and these arguments that say it's not are kind of specious, because it really is. If it immerses you, takes you somewhere else, it is a virtual form of reality, and we should acknowledge it as that. Now, even by that definition, you could say films and 360 video are virtual reality. Well, the difference is that in what I consider virtual reality, you have agency. So watching a film, you don't have agency. Watching a video, your only agency is to turn your head around 360. But in Second Life and in many of the virtual reality experiences that are being created today and have been created for 30 years, agency is the primary vector of telling whether or not it's really virtual reality. The agency can be social, it can be spatial, it can be navigational, it can be interactive, it can be all kinds of things. But there has to be something where you as an individual make a decision and you can act on that decision and it changes your experience for you. So that to me is virtual reality. Second Life certainly fits in that definition to me.
This is really well said, Jackie. And let me just remind folks that you're listening to the Drax Files. You're watching Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley, and we're here SL13B. And I don't want to talk about Landon's or analyze what Landon Linden, who is now no longer with us and doesn't have the ability to respond to it, said. He was distinguishing between a virtual world and virtual reality. And the reason why I ask you this question, Jackie, is because Brenda Laurel, and I think you know her. She used to be teaching at UC Santa Cruz, published a short piece on medium.com where, and maybe I misread that, but it sounded to me as if she defined virtual reality as basically interfacing with a virtual space and having synchronized motions facilitated by a piece of technology with that world. And I found that incredibly narrow. I completely understand why Silicon Valley needs to define VR as a platform, but that's a different story. I was disappointed by Brenda's piece, and we're going to link to this. We're going to link to the article.
I've known Brenda for years and years and years. She's done some of the most amazing virtual reality that's ever been created. I really applauded the piece that she wrote. She and I have been in contact since this resurgence. And in fact, 2.5 years ago now, I had her on a panel that was called When Virtual Reality Really Hits the Streets. And we talked about a lot of these issues. The she published was great because it's addressing a lot of the fallacies of VR that are rampant right now, like 360 video is VR.
Right.
She's talking about the most pure form of VR, but Brenda has not used virtual worlds with the social aspect as much. It's the one place she and I differ, and I haven't had a chance to really sit down and talk with her about it. I do believe that once you're in these worlds, I mean, certainly things like Habitat, things like...
That's right. Habitat, Lucas Arts back then, yeah.
There's so many things that allow you to have a virtual experience. It's all about the experience. Now, whether the difference for me between virtual worlds and virtual reality in that pure definition is virtual worlds can be accessed from anywhere, and virtual reality is pretty much a standalone operation. The ultimate goal that we all were looking for in the early 90s and the late 80s was this totally connected virtual world where your virtual reality was always on and you could go find it. And to me, virtual worlds, especially things like Second Life, High Fidelity, all of these are that sort of that natural conclusion of where we wanted things to be as we saw virtual reality develop. I don't think we ever thought of virtual reality as being these individual standalone platform things or game things. You know, it was something that was to be integrated into our everyday lives in a way that gave us more possibilities for living and for experience.
I'm glad you put it that way, Jackie, because this is something that I'm really worried about, that because of commercial reasons, and I understand them, is that the new worlds that are coming online may be very fragmented, and maybe even Project Sansar may not pursue this, what you just described here, this sort of interconnectedness, and purely because of sort of logistical reasons and commercial reasons, again, which are understandable. Let me go to Iliastra Ascendant. Introduce yourself real quick, Iliastra, if you will. And before you do, I also want to say, Diana, I haven't forgotten about you because I wanted to ask you what your favorite exhibit was, so I can stream from it tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. But since we're on the subject now, what virtual realities and what virtual worlds are, please, Iliastra, introduce yourself real quick, and what is your take on the whole matter? And I also see that you have a HoloLens on your face. So I don't know what a HoloLens is. Is that augmented reality or
And
whatever?
a nice tuxedo.
What was that, Joe?
And a nice tuxedo.
Yeah, I felt I should dress the part at least.
Yeah, the tuxedo. That's right. This is the best dressed guest that we ever had. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can take notes, Drax. Take notes.
I put some time and Lyndon into this, so I figure that we're all emissaries of this world, and we should all try and look our best because we're always getting compared to other stuff. For me, I have been in VR a very long time. I was involved in location-based entertainment back in the days of the BattleTech centers. If anyone's familiar with Mech Warrior, you'd